Welcome to another episode of As Jordan Addison Turns, as we continue the soap opera that has been Jordan Addison's departure from Pitt, or maybe not. He is officially in the transfer portal. There are now rumors of other programs in addition to USC that he may be playing for or may want to play for, and maybe there's an off chance he actually may want to return to Pitt. At least that's as we speak. But in an hour, by the time this show is officially up everywhere, things may change. But as we stand, that's the case right now. This is mic'd up here on Pittsburgh Sports Live, Pittsburgh Sports Now. I'm Mike Asti. That's Mike Vukovcan.
How are your eyes open, Mike, after staying up for that hockey game last night?
Yeah, it's amazing. It could have been worse. They were talking about if we're taking it to 2-3 in the morning. I was a little nervous it was even going to go longer, but I lingered on. I did go with it. Again, as I was telling you, the Penguins do get the victory. They win game one in surprising fashion. That coverage over there, obviously, at Pittsburgh Hockey Now. We had a post-game show with Matt Geica, so we'll leave that be right now. But yeah, the Penguins with a surprising win. Some kind of counted them out in the series altogether. I thought it would go long, but I don't know if I thought the Penguins would win. Crosby and Malkin played better than they have been in recent playoff series, and you got to feel bad. 79 saves and a loss. Yeah. That does show you that wins are not how you can evaluate a goalie or a pitcher. That's an example right there. But putting a pin in that, Jordan Addison situation certainly has continued to be exacerbated, to say the very least, since our last show, which was not that long ago. By the way, there's now a chance that he could return back to Pitt, and there's also a possibility that it's not just USC. There's still likely money involved. There's still likely the NIL deal that's being very much an influence of this. So, Mike, that's where I do want to start. We have had others now who are trying to, try to figure out what maybe is causing Jordan Addison to be in this situation. We did speculate about the NIL deal. That certainly was the original reports. It did feel like this kind of was a money grab, and maybe if he could have went to the NFL this year, he already would be there and would have entered the draft. But his NIL deal that's been rumored is actually better than some NFL draft picks are getting right now. And we even have a colleague, Mike Farrell, who's certainly big time in recruiting, a part of us, and certainly much respect to him. It's great to be aboard and be colleagues with him. But he actually wrote a column in which he kind of lends to believe that Caleb Williams, with his relationship connection and just knowing Jordan Addison so well and having covered him for so long, that it doesn't feel like Jordan Addison would just go grab a bag and would enter himself into so much drama, and that an investigation could occur years and years from now where Jordan Addison's in the NFL doing whatever he's doing there, but it could hurt the schools. It could stain whoever else is still left. That happened at USC not long ago with Reggie Bush. They had their early 2000s dynasty. He's in the NFL. Matt Leinert's in the NFL and then at Fox, and they had to face some punishment, and it took them a while to get back going. So would USC even take that risk, or whichever program? And that's a fair point, because this is absolutely going to be investigated. This is going to be a drama. This is going to probably be a 30 for 30 one day if we get to where we could in terms of super conferences and this being free agency, but that it wasn't just for the money. I know, Mike, you had some strong opinions on this a couple of days ago. We've had a couple of days to simmer on this. What are your thoughts, especially with somebody like Mike Farrell having that opinion, which is converse to what many thought initially? Is this just about the money? Is this about an NIL deal? Is there something else going on here? Is this maybe more free agency where he's taking advantage of a situation to be with a friend and maybe be in a different situation? Pickett is gone, so it would be a new quarterback at Pitt regardless.
First of all, I want to say I respect Mike Farrell. I don't want to
right. So do I, for sure.
Yeah. That's his opinion, or that's his theory that he's throwing out there, or at least the theory that's out there that he's reporting on. But whoever's saying this, I don't buy it for half a second. Yeah. It makes zero sense. I don't want to hear about the relationship. He lived hours away from Caleb Williams. The two don't even follow each other on Twitter or Instagram.
Okay, follow on social media.
I don't want to hear it because they're both from DC. Who cares?
Right.
And he brings
it's a big place. A lot of people are from there.
yeah, exactly. He brings up the USC being a he's getting rent, and this could be better for his NFL profile.
Right.
And all that. What is he talking about? or where does that point even in the latest mock drafts? While at Pitt, he's projected to be a top 15 pick.
Yeah.
How's he going to get much better than that at USC? He's not. By the way, he won a Blitnikoff at Pitt.
At Pitt,
right. Yeah. It's not as though he's looking for an opportunity that maybe he can get some more recognition or he can be the focal point of the offense. He's getting that all here. He is Pitt's main guy last year. Number one, he had 100 catches. You think he's going to get that out there? No. Caleb Williams next year will not be a better quarterback than Caden Slovis.
And even if what if you think he is, hypothetically, what if that's a devil advocate opinion? Because Caleb Williams was a top prospect as well, and Slovis has been good, but he's not been elite.
Yeah, but so was the guy from Spencer Rattler.
Yeah, Spencer Rattler. Sure.
He was supposed to be the he was supposed to be the next coming
at South Carolina now in Oklahoma.
At Oklahoma, he went to Lincoln Riley's offense. How'd that work out for him?
I hear you. I'm just saying that could be a devil's advocate opinion if you do believe that.
Yeah, all you need to do is look at history and what he's done here. Since the day one he's arrived at Pitt, Jordan Addison has been the focal point of Pitt's offense, and that wouldn't change next year. And if his people were him, if that is the argument, which it is not, it's complete stupidity. If they looked at Frank Cignetti's offense and his history, his number one MO is getting guys, his best player, the football a lot.
Yeah.
When he goes to camp, Jordan Addison, no matter who's on Pitt's roster, will be their best player, and Cignetti would get him the ball. So any of these other talk, this is all about money. If it's not about money, when he signs this NIL deal, I want to see his bank account and find out how much. If it's not about money, then just transfer. Don't take the NIL, and if it's about career opportunities and all that, it's just horse crap, to be honest with you. And for anyone to try to make a point and I don't blame Jordan. I want to say that I don't blame him. If it's about the money, that's okay. But for anyone to try to come up with arguments or theories as to why this is happening and anything other than money, it's stupidity. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, Mike Vukovcan, Mike Asti here, mic'd up, Pittsburgh Sports Live, Pittsburgh Sports Now. Jordan Addison, still a topic. It got to be a topic. And yeah, I agree. And again, much respect to Mike Farrell, but he's reporting on a commentary that is out there, but I don't believe the commentary either. This NIL deal is part of it for sure, if not all of it. And even if you do believe Caleb Williams to be a better quarterback, because that could be a debate, even though I think you're splitting hairs. Maybe they're equal if we want to just give that argument to somebody. But even if you do believe that, again, and even if you do believe he's going to get 100 catches, maybe at USC, because Lincoln Riley's great with offenses as well. Even if you believe all of that, he won the Blitnikoff Award as the best receiver in the country at Pitt. Yes, he did it with a Heisman candidate who then became an NFL draft pick as the only quarterback taken in the first round. However, Pitt didn't just give the ball to Patty or nobody else now moving forward. They brought in Slovis, who was from USC and has a history of success as well, and some actually like Patty. So it's not like no one's going to be a quarterback currently at Pitt, and a great receiver can help elevate a quarterback just as much as a QB can help elevate a receiver. It's not for football. He'd be fine. Right. He would have been, if he entered the NFL draft this year, I think this debunks it, he would have been a first-round draft pick. Yes. Absolutely. There were so many receivers taken in the first round, into the second round, into the third round. So the Steelers took 2 receivers this year in the draft. It was littered with receivers taken, and they weren't all believed to be great. They were teams looking to get receivers because they don't want to pay big money to a 4 or 5 year guy. They want the rookie deal, and they believe in these guys' talent. He would have been one of them for sure. He would have been one of them. So it's not like this is his only chance to increase his NFL value. It was there.
And here's the other thing. This is starting to float out there. I heard a couple people bring this up, and I don't believe it's true. But if it is true, then this speaks of Jordan Addison. And I don't want to attack the kid personally because he's never said this. So, but it's out there that he's not sure about the quarterback situation here at Pitt. Caden Slovis is a guy. People are acting as though this guy is some freshman that's coming on, and or some some guy from wherever, name a small school. He started at USC, for God's sake, his first year. He threw 30 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. We're not talking about some some questionable prospect. The guy's thrown 58 touchdowns in 2.5 years as a starter. 58 touchdowns.
And they won in those first couple of years. They didn't last year, but they won those first couple of years with a worse roster than what Pitt had, and not with the Blitnikoff winner.
Yeah. So it's the theories out there, and that that Frank Signetti, he wasn't happy. He's not happy with the hiring of Signetti because it's going to make the offense more well-rounded, and he's not going to be the focal point. There are other guys in the offense, Mumfield, Bartholomew, the running backs are going to get their touches, and that's going to impact him. If that's what, and I don't believe it, but if it is, that speaks to the player, that speaks to greed. And trust me, that will get back to NFL people. I'll say this: I don't believe that is the case. I believe this is strictly about money, which is fine. But if by some chance that is true, that speaks to the player, and I wouldn't want him on my team anyways.
Yeah, and we will get there as well. So that's a nice segue. But yeah, that I guess could be a thing. The only argument again about his NFL value and you needing to have a monster year this year because he couldn't go in the NFL after this past season and this year right now would maybe be if he thinks the offense is going to be more balanced, so he wouldn't get 100 catches, he would get 83 and would still have the yards. Right. I mean, it's not like all of a sudden he's going to go to 30 catches and they're just going to completely not go to him at all. So if that is the case, that is a little bit stupid. And that wouldn't even be, somebody also should get in his ear if that is the case. And again, he hasn't said that because that doesn't matter to the NFL. They have the tape from this season.
Thank you.
If he would go out there and get 81 or 82 catches, and they would contend for the ACC again instead of 100 catches in a more balanced offense, anybody who has been with an NFL team, from the grounds crew to the PR to the janitor, all the way up to the owner, for 5 minutes would know the offense was different. It was a little bit more balanced. It only is a few catches. No big deal. He's still great. No one's going to be like, you didn't get 100 again, so we're not taking
the NFL. The NFL scouts, GMs, coaches,
right?
They know about Jordan Addison.
Sure.
There's only one thing that will impact Jordan Addison this season, is if he gets hurt. That is it.
Which could happen anywhere. That could happen anywhere.
Yes. Jordan Addison can go out there this season and catch 50 balls. And guess what? He is going to be a first-round draft pick next year.
You would think, absolutely, the way
they
receivers.
He already has it on tape. All he has to do is that's all they need to see. His skill set is tremendous.
Right.
The way the NFL today with the receivers and his ability to play inside and outside, the guy is a first-round pick. The only thing, and this has nothing to do with Pitt, USC, Tennessee, Texas, whatever school starts to try to jump in here.
Alabama.
Alabama. Injuries. That is it.
Yeah.
The only thing that's going to prevent Jordan Addison from being a first round.
And knock on wood, I don't care where he plays for. I don't wish that on him at all. So knock on wood for that. Yeah. So, I mean, that's the only thing, though. Yeah, that could happen anywhere. That could happen at any time.
Which is why he's taking the money. And once again,
right.
Which is why I don't care that he does that. I don't blame him for doing that. Right. But just the national media, stop with the theories and trying to justify and trying to come up with I don't know if these guys try to come up with stories to try to whatever. This is about one thing, and that's fine. Just say it. It's about money. He wants to cover his ass in case he gets hurt. He's going to have something in the bank in case there's something. I asked the guy at Clemson, Justin Ross.
Yeah.
The guy was supposed to be a first-round pick early. He was Clemson's best wide receiver. Beginning of last season, he got a physical, and he had a something wrong with his back. That is was a career. He had to sit out the whole season. He went from a first-round pick to an undrafted free agent in a year.
Yeah.
His skills are still the same.
A lot of money lost.
Yeah, they're worried about his back injury. That's what can happen, and that's why athletes, it's okay to cash in, but just be upfront about it. That's fine. Be honest.
Yeah. And again, Jordan Addison's not necessarily doing anything wrong at all. If you believe that there's some shadiness here, you maybe would think Lincoln Riley is doing something wrong. Maybe these other programs are doing something wrong. At least he's in the transfer portal, but was visiting Los Angeles beforehand and that whole thing. But that's not Jordan Addison's fault. If you got to put yourself in Jordan Addison's mind, for any Pitt fans out there mad at him. Again, as Mike just said, he could risk injury by playing next year. I'm sure, I would bet, would have entered the NFL draft this year and been a first-round pick if the rules allowed him to do so. The rules did not allow him to do so. No fault of his own. We talked about that. I do think that's unfair. If a franchise or an organization of any kind wants to employ you, then you have the right to accept that employment. If it's a bad decision because of whatever age or maturation process or learning you need to go through or bodybuilding, then that's something that you and them are going to make a mistake on. But to restrict it off a rule is unfair. But that's not his rules. He's forced to go back another year. And if money's presented in front of you and you have a chance to secure yourself, where if he gets hurt, he still has this NIL money for $3 million, which isn't what he'd make in the NFL for 10 years, obviously, with another mega contract if he would get one. But it's a lot of money, more than a lot of us are ever going to make in our whole lives. Right. So that would be, in a way, generational money just by itself. You can't be mad at any of that. And even if Pitt tried to match it and he still wanted to go, maybe he has loyalty to an NIL deal that's already there. Maybe it's a little bit more than what Pitt has, and he wants the exact amount that's the exact most, no matter where it is. And maybe he does want to be in LA because, let's face it, LA does bring you more money and more opportunities outside of football, commercials, etc., than Pittsburgh would. So none of that's his fault. That's just the way it is. But it does feel shady the way this has unraveled here. But Mike, we have to go here now because all of this now segues to kind of the theme question of the program, the theme question of the day. And this has been brought up and debated by many. I brought it up myself. You may want to go in a different direction, that if Jordan Addison would now want to return to Pitt. So whether whether this was about relationship, like some were trying to say, or this was purely about the money, if that money deal is out there, if he's now weighed USC versus other programs, he did officially enter the transfer portal. But if somehow he calls Narduzzi right now after we get off this show and says, I apologize, I want to come back to Pitt, I'll take that NIL deal that you guys are trying to work behind the scenes. I'll do what Aaron Donald and Larry Fitz wanted me to do, or I'll come back just regardless of the money because I now have a sense of loyalty to Pitt. I want to go for a national title, which hasn't happened since 76 or Pitt, even though we just did it in the ACC. If any of that hypothetically would occur and he could come back to Pitt, at this point now, with him in the portal and all this drama out there, would you take him back to Pitt?
Well, this is a tough answer. Or this is a tough.
Yeah,
I know it'll be a controversial thing for me to say, but I think this is about long term. I think this is setting a program precedent for Pat Narduzzi. I think this is for players in the future that because this thing isn't going away.
No,
and there's going to be rules. By the way, congrats! You threw a suggestion you threw out a couple days ago. I see is being thrown out there as far as having a specific time period.
The tighter window.
Yeah. Well, we can get into that later, but
yeah,
I wouldn't take him back. I know it sounds stupid. I know Pitt likely would. I don't think it's ever going to come to that. We're just throwing out hypotheticals here, but I wouldn't. And the reason I say that is, I'll qualify if I say this. If Pitt, nobody knows, I'm trying to find out. Pitt is trying to, if Pitt originally offered him somewhere in the neighborhood of what USC offered him, has on the table for him, and he still said no and decided to enter the transfer portal,
right?
Then I wouldn't take him back.
Okay.
Just because he saw there what your opportunity was. He knew what he was leaving. This is a team that he's bonded with. He's created. He's built his NFL resume here because of what happened here. They took care of him here. He was a Blitnikoff player. He's a great, one of the best receivers ever. and yet he still chose to leave his teammates and his coaches in the program in light of what is ahead of them. To me, that's a bad look, regardless of the money that's out there. And then for him to turn around and, like I said, I don't think this is going to happen, but just for the sake of the question, because I know that somebody wrote that Pitt is still a possibility. I just wouldn't take him back. And I think this would send a message to the rest of the players. Either you're in or you're out. You're with us or you're not. You have your chance after the season that you could have left if you weren't with us and you knew this would be a possibility. Jordan Addison knew from day one and his people that once Pitt's Peach Bowl game was over, he could have entered the transfer portal and he would have been a huge deal. He decided to wait 3 or 4 months, whatever the time frame has been. It put Pitt in a bad position. They worked out with him, assuming he was their number one guy. They could have went out and targeted another transfer if he would have left. It basically screwed them.
They used him to sell Slovis. Let's be real.
Exactly. Yeah. It screws them. And if they're going to be honest, they will say that they're going to spend the next few months trying to figure out plan B. I know, it just the way it is. But to answer your question, no, I would say thank you, Jordan, for what you've done. We appreciate everything you've done. You were a great player for us. You helped us. You were a big part, a major part in winning an ACC title. But you made your bed. We're going to go win without you. You go to USC, Texas, whoever. See if you're going to do as much winning there, because I can guarantee you Pitt will have a better season this season, wins, losses, than both Texas and USC. So I'm not going to go to Alabama there. There's always a chance Alabama. They could always throw their hat in the ring.
Their worst season is an SEC title where they don't get the playoff.
That's a different ball game there. They're going to obviously be better than Pitt, but Pitt will be a better program at the end of the season with or without Jordan Addison than these teams that are trying to get. Tennessee is another one that's trying to reportedly get involved. If that's the case, that's fine. Have fun out wherever you are, but we'll find next up in line.
I hear that. Now, I would take him back, but before I give my full detailed response there, and it does appear many of the players would take him back just from reading the tea leaves and some of these tweets. You don't know really what's being said in the locker room. Obviously, Slovis is with the culture. Granted, he wasn't there last year. And then many others talking about, hey, kind of defending him. Kind of what we've been saying that, hey, this is the system that you should be mad at, not him personally. Don't hate the player, hate the game type of thing. That's kind of where we are right here. But just on one quick thing that you mentioned there as part of it, you did say part of your answer hinges on if Pitt did come up with close to that NIL deal, which is the rumor, but not factually known. And those players involved in those meetings, the team, even the program, they're not going to say this is a fact right now, maybe not ever. So if by chance the money they came up with was not to the level of $3 million, because obviously I'm assuming they came up with something, but say the money was significantly different wherever he ends up, whether it be the $3 million USC offer or some other program that's involved now comes out and say, we'll do a $4 million offer. And Pitt says, I can't go more than 3, or I couldn't go more than 2, and the $3 million's out there. Would that change your answer? Because then it's just taking more money and the small market team just can't pay as much.
I'd like it to change, but no. I think this is a statement move by Pitt. You can't have the players, despite them deserving the opportunity to earn money. You can't have players holding you hostage every year. If they set a precedent by giving in and giving him whatever he wants, who's to say in the middle of the season this year, one of their best players who could be a draft pick, gets pissed off and say, you know what, I'm not going to risk anything here. You either come up with more money for me at the end of the season to cover me, or I'm going to sit the rest of the season. You just go down too many different slippery slopes when you enter into this stuff. They made their offer to him. He knew what was there. He knew what he is leaving at Pitt. And if he chooses to do that, thank him for what he did here, but that's it. Change the locks on the door. He's not allowed back in.
Change the locks on the door. I don't know if
that's just the way. I hate to say it, but I think this is more about future Pitt teams than this 2022 team. I think Pitt and other programs need to have a hard stance on this, and they just can't be caving in to every player's demand.
So here's why I think Pitt should take him back, and I do think Pitt would take him back. I do think Pitt would take him back. Maybe Narduzzi wouldn't want to because he wouldn't want to set that precedent. He's never taken anybody back in the situation before. And obviously now with the success he just had, he has tons of clout and he's going to be around a long time. But it does appear the players would want to take him back. So hypothetically, if the players would want to take him back, if the players would go into Narduzzi and say, we definitely don't want him, that would change my answer to no, you don't take him back. But as long as the players are cool with them, then I would take him back for a couple reasons. Number one, this sucks, but you are hurting them by sending a message for the future and to Jordan Addison, because a lot of these tweets are, we want to win a national title. We want to do more than the ACC. We want to come back and be a special team beyond what we even did. We want to have back-to-back years, which Pitt obviously hasn't done. And that would be incredibly special for the history of the program. That would set them to a whole different level. They're all talking about team, even though Jordan Addison's thinking me. And I get it. But if somehow he would want to come back for whatever reason, money collapses, he has a change of heart because maybe they're on the phone with him, that could very well be possible. They're trying to get him to come back, or these situations fall apart elsewhere. Maybe Slovis says, hey, I'm better than you think I am, and convinces him. Whatever the case may be, he's the best receiver in the country, arguably. He did win the Biletnikoff, so he's certainly one of the best, if you believe. He's a first-round draft pick. The offense clicks with him there at Pitt, where the rest is a question mark, and even if it's more versatile, he's still going to be heavily involved. You'd make the team worse. Even if we still believe there'd be a contender, they're not going to be awful. They're going to be right in there. Clemson surge at the end of the year. They always bring talent back. They could easily win the ACC coming into next season. It doesn't, obviously they're a different division, but they could win the ACC. So getting there and then getting smacked by Clemson, who's back, wouldn't be as good as this past year. And having Jordan Addison makes you better. It makes you a better team. It will hurt you on the field. So you are making the team worse. This goes even to the debate of what happened in the Super Bowl a couple years ago. If you remember, with Bill Belichick, and he had a player that we didn't know why all of a sudden benched in the Super Bowl. And there are Patriot players to this day that are still upset, including Brady, who's made some side comments that, hey, you kind of screwed us out of a ring there. He was one of our best players in our secondary. He didn't play. Right. And we didn't know what happened for months and months till after. He kind of then let us know. And there are many Patriot players that have factually said they do believe that cost them that game. It was close. All their Super Bowls are close. So Bill Belichick sent a message, being a hard-nosed guy, and took a ring off some people's finger in their minds. Would they rather have had him play regardless of what happened and won, or had the message sent and lost, and it'd be better for the franchise that they're no longer even a part of in many cases? So that does hurt the player. And really the other end of this is, I don't necessarily blame Jordan Addison so much as the system. And I do get setting the message and not letting this be too much of a thing that unravels, and certain programs need to send a message. We're going to not take guys back so that this doesn't become a thing. And I do get the timing is the worst. The thing I can maybe get to you is the timing sucks so bad. If what I would say to him in that conversation, Jordan, you knew money was going to be there. I'm sure there were rumblings. Let's face facts. If you even would have done this a month ago, I wouldn't be as mad, because we go through spring practice, we get the roster together. This is embarrassing, and the roster is kind of set. So I get it. If he would have decided sooner or earlier in the offseason, it wouldn't have been as bad, but he decided now. But this is going to keep on happening. No matter as much of a message you send, you may send a message that nobody on Pitt can do this again, but other programs are still going to call your guys and try to steal them. Other major programs, the elite programs, are going to keep on doing this. So you may try to send your message and it doesn't matter to stopping this anyway, but it will make your team worse for this year, and it'll send a message, but that really won't matter in the long run. So I would take him back, and I think the team would, hypothetically.
Yeah, I can't argue with 99% of what you said, because I think you're right. I'm very big on principle.
Yeah.
And his motto last year, and they won, and I think it was instilled throughout the team, is we, not me. And
that's why I brought that up at the beginning of my.
You
my
go back.
rant
You
there,
go back. If you go back and do this, what's that say about your motto? It's words. A coach does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Then you could just say that, and it's just, and people can come back. Yeah. What about we, not me? What's his answer going to be? He has no. You should just get rid of it then.
Yeah, he'll dance around or come with a new motto. Yeah.
Well, he could dance, but that would be.
It'll look bad.
Like I said, this is not an easy. I don't think this is an easy decision. Somebody over at Pitt told me when I sent this person the tweet that said that Aaron Donald reached out to Addison to try to have a talk with them. I asked the person in the football program, is this good news? Is this good news for you guys? His response to me was, Mike, regardless of what happens in this situation, and this was whenever that came out, I don't remember what day it was, 2-3 days ago.
Yeah.
He said, Mike, regardless of what happens in this situation, nothing will be good that comes out of this.
Yeah, that is fair. Even if he does come back, this sets a really bad. Other players are going to test it, and they're going to eventually leave.
That's my point.
I hear that, but don't you think that that'll happen anyway? Even if they don't take him back.
There's very few people, and that's in another person that's on the outside of Pitt, but is part of the NIL collection, part of the NLI team, said that. No, I just forgot what I was just going to say. Well, my wife.
Well, about trying to cover this for the. Yeah, I mean, this is obviously going to.
Oh, I know what I was going to say. Jordan Addison. This situation with Jordan Addison is going to be. This isn't going to be a yearly thing where a player on Pitt is able to go out there and command.
Not every player is Jordan Addison.
Yeah, this is not going to be a yearly thing where Pitt's going to be. It might be at another program. Jordan Addison is a special talent. He's a guy that Pitt hasn't had like him at receiver since Fitzgerald. Players aren't going to be able to do this every year, so they're not going to have the Pitt program, by the onions. This is a rare situation, I think. Are they going to have to maybe come up with some players in the future? Yes, but it's likely that it's very likely that 98% of those players aren't going to have the leverage that Jordan Addison does.
The impact wouldn't be as great.
This isn't something that they're going to have to battle, I think, every year. Is there going to be some players? Yeah, of course. But we're not going to be talking in the $2+ million in a house, in a house on the beach situation.
No, what will end up happening is certainly if a player loses a quarterback job where he ends up as a backup, or somebody ends up where they're the number 2 receiver or they're the number 2 running back, or you lose some battle and clearly the program still absolutely wants the player, needs the player. You want to try to win. You need more than one guy, etc. You need depth. And they're going to say, no, I don't want to be wide receiver 2 on an ACC title team. I'd rather have a chance at wide receiver 1 at this program. Or if I'm going to be wide receiver 2 even at a good team, I don't care about wins and losses because I just want to get to the NFL. I'm going to go take money to be even a wide receiver 2 somewhere else. So that a guy who loses a battle may say, I know I'd win more here as a backup to an Addison type. I don't care about, because that's what we bring up too. Pitt likely will be a better team next year with Addison than any of these other programs outside of Alabama would be, or maybe even USC. Who knows what would happen? The Pac-12 is not strong, but you get what I'm saying. It's a better team based on what happened last year and similar to what's coming back. But I don't think Addison cares about wins and losses at this point. That kind of goes back to our topic initially. It is about the money. We don't blame him there. But I do think this is going to linger on college football. And this is a decision that if he could come back, I know Narduzzi wants to be Iron Fist. He's in charge. He's not going to necessarily let the players run the asylum. This isn't pro sports. I would dip into really getting the opinion of the room and the players. If they really want him back, that would lean me to maybe think about that. If they don't want him back for sure, then I would go in that direction. That really has to be about this, because there's going to be some awkwardness there. But I think most of the players would get the situation. I think they're going to get about the money. But yeah, this won't come up all the time, but it will come up.
Yeah, I think what's going to happen here is
I do think he's gone, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he's gone. This is not going to come out for a couple of days, just so they can, just so both sides can keep out the image that this wasn't a done deal and that he's actually thinking about it, and he's contemplating. The decision's made, the contract's probably already signed, and so let's just wait a few days just so things don't look as shady as everyone knows it is. So I would obviously look for him to be heading out to USC, or who knows. You just never know with Texas either. We mentioned them the other day. They're a program that's desperate. They want the limelight. They want to get.
They have the money. They have just as much.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to get. They're going to. They want to win just as bad as USC and become relevant, which they haven't been forever. So you just never know if Texas wants to get in the game, and then he could be reunited with Brennan Marion. That's always a possibility. And someone threw out the weird possibility of Tennessee last night. Can you imagine just for a second if he would go to Tennessee and then the second game of the year next year, Tennessee comes to Pitt? Can you imagine the scene? That would be, woo.
That would have been the only, that would have been like if Ben Simmons did play in Philadelphia instead of not playing those games.
Wow, would that be a scene here at Heinz Field? You want to hear
that would be something, and that would be something. And I think, from a fan's perspective, because some people do bring up, well, if he would have done this again, because Larry Fitz left so early, Larry Fitz is a Hall of Famer, better receiver overall in his legacy, but maybe Addison could have become the best receiver in Pitt history if he would win another Biletnikoff and they would win a national title, etc. Larry Fitz didn't win that many games. They weren't that good of teams. I don't know if he cares, and maybe he wouldn't even care if Pitt fans boo him, but that would be a scene. That would definitely be something. That would definitely be something for sure. But if he has his money, that's probably all he would care about. And yeah, if we had to bet now, that's likely not happening either. I would bet the USC thing is happening, and they would do whatever they have to get him, because USC is going to look pretty bad here if he ends up in Tennessee, which is a lower program, historically speaking, and even recently right now. And I don't think they're in the same situation that Lincoln Riley is at USC for the future. So that wouldn't look good either. But this is just crazy. And I do think, Mike, I brought it up. It's now maybe a conversation. It could happen, and we'll talk about it in future shows. I do think the two fixes here, number one, either you let players go to the NFL whenever they can go, and if the NFL wants them, which is what should happen, but that would hurt college football, and I don't think the NFL wants to do that. It is their best feeder system despite these other pro leagues. And the other end is tightening the window. You make it just a small month and a half after whatever it's going to be. You make it like the month of February and March. You make it even just March. You make it just February. Maybe you got to make it a little longer. I know some did bring up, and I think this is a compromise, that maybe you need to do it after spring practice, because there are players, like I brought up, that if they lose a spring practice battle, it has to be fair to them to let them make a decision to leave, not stick them as a backup, especially a quarterback. That's fair. So maybe here's my compromise as we close the show. You have a small window, maybe even a December window. You stop for the holiday. Maybe then you bring it back for a second brief window after spring practice or during spring practice. So you maybe have the December, January window, maybe the holiday window, whatever that wants to be, December, January, or just December. And then you break. There's no window in February. And then you give like an end of March window, an April window, or whatever that would be. You have two windows, one of them after spring or during spring practice that's a little smaller, and you have the other. But it can't just be whenever the spirit moves you. So that's what I
like the proposal that's out there, or the reported proposal that could be floated and voted upon, is the player has 5 weeks following their end of their season, or at the end of their bowl game, which would take them, through January.
Yeah, so that would be the December, January thing.
Yes, and then they would have another, I believe it was a week or two in April leading into May.
And that brings up the spring practice thing.
Yeah. Right. And then after that, it's then shut down. So they basically, they would have,
and you close February and March, you don't have right. Yes. So it gives coaches some time to do some work.
Yeah.
Right.
So it would be basically 5 to 6 weeks total that these players would have to enter the portal.
Yeah.
And this wouldn't be a weekly thing throughout the year. They have 5 or 6 weeks to get in.
And a player like Addison would have had plenty of time to get this.
He could have done that right after, if it wasn't about the money, then he could have done this, right after soon thereafter, after their loss to Michigan State in the Peach Bowl.
Yeah. So, or even if it was about the money, he could do it right now.
Yeah.
Because part of that compromise is you have the December, January window, you close in February, March, and then you have the April to early May window, which is what we're now in. So he would still be in this window if he wants to do it for the money, but it wouldn't have been as much chaos before, and it maybe would calm this down a little bit for back end deals. That'll do it for this edition of the show. We might have more on this. You never know when this story is going to officially die or what it's going to unravel here as we move forward. Again, Pittsburgh Sports Now for all that covered. Subscribe here, Pittsburgh Sports Live, for more shows like this, notifications when they are released, also to what we cover throughout our family of networks, including the Penguins in the playoffs over there at Hockey Now and the post-game shows here in PSL. So subscribe for that reason as well, if you don't care about Addison and football. Who knows where Addison's going to go, but it's going to be a soap opera nonetheless. So I guess thank you, Jordan Addison, for this content and be able to talk about this on these shows, because it's been great for business for us, like it might be for you